All right. This is the podcast covering your review of Lab 10, which we did not do. So I guess it's not really a review, is it? We actually did play around with this concept a little bit. Lab 10 is looking at circulatory system in endotherms and ectotherms. If we had pursued this in class, of course, you would have been the endotherm, and we would have looked at things like blood pressure, which is always really difficult for us to check in the classroom. Because anyway, and we would have done the pulse rate thing, which we actually did do. We would also have looked at an ectotherm, which would have been a little Daphnia. It's a little tiny crustacean. You can see them with your unaided eye, so they're little animals, but we would look at them with a microscope, and what we would see is their heart is right about here. This is obviously his little head end with his antennae or whatever, and his heart is about here, and you can watch it beat. And if you sandwich him just right between a couple of slides, you can put him under the microscope and watch his little heartbeat, and you can count the beats per minute. And you can see how different things like temperature would affect his heart rate, remembering that he is an ectotherm. So anyway, so in this lab, then what we would have done if we had completely done it was we would have studied how different factors affect heart rate, whether that is in an endotherm or an ectotherm. Okay, what we would have done with you is essentially what we did the other day. We would have tested body position, and what we found was that lying down, your heart rate is lower. Standing up, your heart rate goes up. Your heart has to work harder. It's pumping blood against gravity and so on. We would also have tested level of activity. We actually did this in sixth period. We did some activity, a little simple exercise, and then tested the pulse rate to see how that was affected. In Daphnia, what we did, Daphnia is the name of our little crustacean, remember, and that right there is his little heart. This is his digestive tract. These are baby Daphnia getting ready to be born. In Daphnia, we would have tested the effect of temperature, and what we would have expected is that colder Daphnia have a decrease in heart rate, whereas warmer Daphnia have an increase, comparatively speaking, in heart rate. Okay? So these are excellent terms to know. We've talked about them a bit in class over the years. I would not worry about this concept. I've seen it show up, but it's nowhere in the curriculum. So anyway, this is showing you essentially how we might have done the lab. You chill down your little Daphnia to different temperatures and compare how his heart rate goes. It's that simple. And you count the beats per minute, just like we did in class. You would count for 6 seconds, multiply by 10, and then you get the heartbeats per minute. Here is an example of an essay question. It says, in mammals, heart rate during periods of exercise is linked to the intensity of the exercise. So this is asking you to weave together the respiratory, circulatory, and nervous systems during exercise. This might obviously wouldn't just be heart rate, but perhaps a nervous control of the heart rate, and the respiratory rate to fuel the oxygen needs of the muscles and so on. This would ask you, of course, to design a controlled experiment. So we could maybe think of doing simple exercises and test the heart rate with each. And then they're asking you to make a hypothesis using the axis on the graph between a control and experimental group. Remember to label axes and all of that. So certainly I believe all of you could get some points on this. And remember, we're not trying to, I mean, if you can get a 10 on an essay, fantastic. But what we're shooting for is to get some points, like 5 would be awesome. 5 points is awesome. 10 is even better. But at any rate, so that's it. And that's the end of Lab 10. So let me know if you've got any questions, and I will definitely catch you at Lab 11, which we are about to do.